Okay, when you hear the words human resources or HR, what do you think of? Is it just filling out forms, mountains of paperwork, maybe complicated benefits packages? Well, we're going to show you that HR is actually one of the most powerful engines inside any successful company. It's so much more than paperwork. Let's dive in.
To really get why HR matters, let's start with a person. Let's meet Gladys. She is a brilliant junior engineer, 6 months into what she thinks is her dream job, and she's just walked into her very first performance review. She's actually excited, but she has no idea she's about to be completely blindsided.
So her supervisor lists a few mistakes he thinks she made, tells her she's not doing half the things her job requires, and then just drops this number on her, a 6.5 out of 10. And then he just walks out. Gladys is left totally stunned, and you can imagine, completely demoralized. Now, her experience is a perfect example of how not to do a performance review, but it also shows us exactly why a really well-designed HR system is so critical. It's there to stop these kinds of situations from ever happening. See, Gladys's story isn't just about one bad review. It's about a massive missed opportunity. When companies forget to see their employees as their single most valuable asset, they're not just hurting morale, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot. In today's economy, a company's real secret weapon is its ability to find, grow, and keep amazing people.
This quote right here really nails a huge shift in how we think about business. For a long time, it was all about money, right? Financial capital. But what we're seeing now is that the real bottleneck, the real thing holding companies back is human capital. You can have the best ideas in the world, but without the right people to make them happen, they're just not going to get off the ground.
So here's the big takeaway. Modern HR isn't just about admin tasks anymore. It is strategic. It's about building a whole system, from how you hire, to how you train, to how you do reviews, that creates the exact team a company needs to win. It's about turning people's potential into the company's real-world success. In that whole process, that whole system, it all starts with one absolutely critical step: getting the right people in the door in the first place. And this is where recruiting becomes both an art and a science. Just look at the difference here. You've got the traditional way on one side, but then you have a company like Zappos. They realize that hiring isn't just about ticking skill boxes. It's about finding people who truly fit their unique culture. So they make their hiring process feel like their brand. And get this, they even offer new hires money to quit. It's a genius way to weed out anyone who isn't 100% on board with their mission. And then there are companies like Trilogy Software who take it to a whole other level. I mean, look at these numbers. 15,000 resumes reviewed just to hire 262 people. That's insane. But what's really fascinating is how they did it. They do stuff like take candidates to play laser tag. Why? Because they weren't just looking for coding skills. They were looking for creativity, competitiveness, and people who could think on their feet as part of a team. Okay, so you've gone through all this trouble. You've hired the best of the best. The job's done, right? Nope. HR's work is far from over. In fact, it's really just beginning. Because once you have those amazing people, the next big challenge is helping them reach their absolute full potential. So, how do you actually build a training program that works? Well, a lot of companies use a framework called ADDIE. It's basically a simple 5-step recipe. You start by figuring out what people actually need to learn. Then you design the program, create the materials, deliver the training, and, this is the most important part, you evaluate it to see if it actually worked. It's this constant loop of improvement to make sure your training is always sharp and useful. But, learning doesn't just happen in a conference room with stale donuts. On-the-job training is incredibly powerful, especially through apprenticeships. And these programs cover a wild range of jobs now, way beyond what you might think. We're talking over 1,000 different occupations. Take a look at this steel maker, DeFasco. They have new hires spend almost 3 years in an apprenticeship. That's a huge investment. But what they're doing is genius. They're solving a long-term problem. They're making sure that the critical knowledge from their experienced, veteran employees gets passed down to the next generation. It's a perfect example of strategic HR in action. And this brings us right back to Gladys. Remember her? You can have the best hiring and the best training in the world, but if your performance reviews are broken, you're going to crush the spirit of your best people. So how do good companies measure what actually matters?
The real secret to good performance management is this. You have to stop thinking of it as a once-a-year ambush. It needs to be an ongoing conversation. When feedback is just a regular, normal part of how a manager and an employee talk, then there are no surprises. The formal review just becomes a quick summary of a chat that's been happening all year long.
And of course, technology is a huge help here. Tools like this performance scorecard make that conversation so much easier. It gives everyone a clear, data-driven way to see how things are going in real time. It makes the whole process more objective, more collaborative, and way less scary. I mean, think about Uber. It's a great real-world example. Drivers get constant feedback through a super clear and transparent rating system. The expectations are simple, the do's and don'ts are right there, and the feedback is immediate. It's a really powerful use of technology to build a performance management system that's incredibly efficient. Now, the rise of companies like Uber is actually part of a much bigger trend that's changing the whole nature of work itself. The old 9-to-5 job is becoming less and less common, and HR is right at the center of helping both companies and all of us navigate this new world.
For generations, right, a career looked like a steady climb up the ladder, usually at just one or two companies. But for so many people today, that path is being replaced by something much more fluid and entrepreneurial. And there's a name for this new model. It's called a portfolio career. The idea is that you're not just an employee anymore. You're more like a small business of one. You're piecing together different projects, freelance gigs, and part-time jobs to build a career on your own terms.
This slide really lays it out clearly, doesn't it? The old linear career path is giving way to this more flexible, mosaic-like approach. In this new world, it's less about loyalty to one company and much more about building a diverse portfolio of your own skills and experiences.
Now, this new world of work definitely offers a ton of flexibility, which is great, but it also brings up some really tough questions about fairness and security. If more and more companies are relying on freelancers and contract workers, how do we make sure that everyone still has access to things like health insurance and retirement savings that used to come with a full-time job?
The story of the Carrier Corporation is a pretty stark reminder of the human side of these decisions. An executive called moving 1,400 jobs to Mexico just a business decision. And you can see why, financially. Look at the numbers. But that decision had a devastating impact on those workers and their families. This is really the central tension of our modern economy. How do you balance that push for performance with a basic sense of fairness?
And that leaves us with a huge, fundamental question for the future of work. As we keep building more efficient, more global, more flexible economies, how do we make sure we're also building in a sense of fairness for the very people whose work creates all that value in the first place?
And that, right there, is why understanding HR is so incredibly important today. It is no longer just about the paperwork. It is about being right in the middle of these complex human debates that are going to define what it means to have a job, to build a career, and to create a fair and just economy in the 21st century.